Most people think they have a money problem, but in reality, they have a behavior problem because it's not about how much you earn, it's about what you do with what you earn. And this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. You see, people wait. They say things like, I'll start saving later. I'll invest when I have more money. I'll take it seriously in the future. But the truth is, later almost never comes. And while they're waiting, time is moving forward. And time is the most important factor in building wealth. Imagine this. You decide to save just a small percentage of your income, let's say 15%, and you automate it. So every month it goes away before you even touch it. You don't feel it as much, you adjust your lifestyle around what's left, and slowly it becomes normal. Not painful, not difficult, just part of your system. Now, compare that to someone who says, I'll save what's left at the end of the month. The problem is, there is almost never anything left because expenses expand, lifestyle expands, and without realizing it, everything gets consumed. This is how people stay stuck for years without understanding why. Then comes the big mistake. People reward themselves too early. They get a small increase in income and immediately upgrade their life. A better car, more expensive habits, more unnecessary spending. And suddenly they are earning more but still saving nothing, or even worse, going into debt. That's how you end up driving something that looks impressive but is quietly draining your future every single month. Let's say you spend $800 a month on a car. Over 5 years, that's $48,000. And after those 5 years, what do you have? A car worth maybe $16,000? Meaning you lost tens of thousands, not just in money, but in opportunity. Because if that same amount was invested instead, even in a simple way, over time it could grow into something much bigger. But most people don't see that because the loss is not immediate. It's hidden, it's slow, and that's what makes it dangerous.
And here's where it gets even more important, because it's not just about one decision, it's about patterns, small choices repeated over and over again, buying things to feel better, delaying important decisions, avoiding discomfort, and these patterns shape your entire financial future. People often think the solution is earning more. And yes, earning more helps, but it doesn't fix the core problem. Because if your habits don't change, more income just means more spending. You've probably seen it. Someone gets a raise, and a few months later, they're in the same position. No savings, no progress, just a more expensive version of the same life. And this is why awareness matters. Because once you see the pattern, you can break it. Instead of increasing your lifestyle every time your income increases, you increase your investments, you increase your savings, you let your future benefit first, and then you enjoy what's left. This simple shift changes everything. But most people struggle with one thing: patience. Because we live in a world where everything is instant. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant results. And when it comes to money, people expect the same. But wealth doesn't work like that. In the beginning, it's slow, almost invisible. You save, you invest, and nothing exciting happens. And this is exactly where most people quit, because they think it's not working. But what they don't understand is that growth is not linear, it's exponential. At first it looks flat, then slowly it starts to curve, and then it accelerates, and all those small actions suddenly become powerful. This is why starting early matters so much more than starting big, because time multiplies everything. A small amount invested early can outperform a large amount invested late, and that's something most people underestimate.
And here's something most people never realize. The real danger is not losing money. The real danger is losing time. Because money can be earned again, but time never comes back. Every year you delay is not just 1 year lost, it's the loss of all the growth that could have happened during that year. And that's what makes the difference massive over time. Imagine two people again. One starts at 25, the other starts at 35. The second person is not lazy, not stupid, not irresponsible, just 10 years later. But those 10 years can cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes even more, and that gap is almost impossible to fully close. And this is why starting small is not a weakness. It's actually an advantage, because starting small means starting now, and starting now is the only thing that really matters. Another mistake people make is thinking that investing is complicated. They think you need to understand markets, charts, strategies, timing. But in reality, most wealth is built in a very boring way. Simple, consistent, repetitive actions over a long period of time. Not excitement, not guessing, not luck, just discipline. And yes, it feels slow at the beginning, very slow. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening at all. You save, you invest, and you look at your account and it barely moves. And this is exactly the moment when most people quit, because they expect results too early. But what they don't understand is that growth is not linear, it's exponential.
In the beginning, it looks flat, almost invisible, but then something changes. The curve starts to rise faster and faster, and suddenly all those small actions begin to compound into something big. This is why patience is not optional. It's required, because without patience, you will always stop before the real results begin.
And there's another psychological trap. People compare themselves to others. They see someone buying a new car, traveling, spending money, and they feel like they are missing out, like they are behind. But what they don't see is the full picture. They don't see the debt, the stress, the lack of savings. They only see the surface, and they make decisions based on that illusion. Real wealth is often invisible. It's not the car you drive. It's not the clothes you wear. It's not the lifestyle you show. It's the money you don't see. The money that is working quietly in the background, growing, compounding, building your future. And the people who understand this stop trying to look rich and start trying to become rich. And those are two completely different paths. One is fast and visible but temporary. The other is slow and invisible but permanent. And at some point, those paths separate so far that the difference becomes impossible to ignore. One person keeps working forever, always needing the next paycheck, always worried about expenses, always reacting, while the other gains freedom. Not instantly, but gradually. The freedom to choose, the freedom to say no, the freedom to live differently. And that freedom doesn't come from a single big decision, it comes from thousands of small ones, repeated every week, every month, every year.
Now let's talk about something that almost nobody discusses openly, and that is the emotional side of money. Because most financial mistakes are not logical, they are emotional. Think about the last time you bought something you didn't really need. It wasn't a calculation, it was a feeling. Boredom, stress, a desire to feel better in that moment. And that's completely human, but it's also one of the biggest reasons people struggle financially. When you understand that most spending is driven by emotion and not by logic, you start to realize that building wealth is not just a financial skill, it's an emotional one. It's learning to pause before a purchase. It's asking yourself not just, can I afford this, but why do I want this right now? And often, when you ask that question honestly, the answer reveals something important. That you were trying to solve a feeling with money, and money rarely solves feelings, at least not for long. Think about this for a moment. When you feel stressed at work, what do? When you feel bored on a weekend, what do? When you feel like you deserve a reward after a hard week, what do? For a lot of people, the answer involves spending. And there is nothing wrong with enjoying your money, but there is a big difference between intentional enjoyment and emotional spending. One is a choice you make consciously. The other is a reaction you don't even fully notice. And the cost of that reaction, over months and years, is enormous. Not because of any single purchase, but because of the habit it creates. The pattern of reaching for spending as a solution to discomfort and never really questioning it.
Here's another thing worth understanding. The environment you are in shapes your financial behavior more than you probably realize. If everyone around you is buying new things, eating at expensive places, and upgrading their cars regularly, you will feel a natural pressure to do the same, even if you never consciously decided to. This is not weakness. This is just how human beings work. We are wired to compare ourselves to the people closest to us. And in a world driven by social media and constant visibility into other people's spending, that pressure is more intense than it has ever been in history. The solution is not to isolate yourself, but to become aware of this influence, to recognize when a desire to spend comes from genuine need or enjoyment versus when it comes from wanting to match what you see around you. Because once you see it, you have a choice. So if you feel like what you're doing right now is not enough, you're probably right. But the solution is not something extreme, not a risky move, not a huge change overnight. It's something much simpler and much harder at the same time. Consistency. Doing the right thing even when it feels pointless, even when nobody sees it, even when results are not immediate. Because in the end, the people who win financially are not the ones who are the smartest or the luckiest. They are the ones who stay consistent long enough to let time do the work. And once you understand that, everything becomes clearer. You stop chasing shortcuts, you stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you start focusing on what actually works. Small steps, repeated over time, building something real.